Here we go. Well, welcome everyone. Woohoo! I'm so happy that we are doing this webinar today because it's been a while since we've had a webinar for you. My travel schedule's been a bit intense. I am super excited about today's topic, which is communicate with confidence. And our guest, Brandi Britton, you are going to love her. She has some incredible information for you. So, hello from Ohio and Germany and Philadelphia, and where else is everybody? California, Maryland, Chicago. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I hope you are having a wonderful early summer so far. It's already June, correct? I'm Joan Burge, founder and CEO of Office Dynamics International. We are the global leader in the development and presentation of sophisticated training programs and information for administrative office professionals. And we have been doing this since 1990, so a long time. I'm also the author of 4 books for administrative professionals, including our Amazon bestseller, Who Took My Pen Again? And also, I could tell you a little secret. I have a new book coming out very soon, which we'll tell you about more this summer. So, first of all, we have a few logistics to go through, and then we're going to dive into today's program. As I said, Brandi has a lot of great information for you. So first of all, the learning part of our session will be about 40 minutes, and then we will follow that with the Q&A. You can submit your questions anytime during the webinar, and there is a little icon, a little question mark icon. If you can use that, it would be wonderful, because then Malia could pull your questions, place them aside, so that when we get into Q&A, we'll be sure to address at least as many questions as we possibly can in the time we have left. Third, the webinar jam chat holds 1,000 people. So if you don't get in, sorry, 1,000 actually is a lot of people chatting away. So anyways, hopefully you've made it in and you could pose your questions to us. We do not have a handout for today, so you'll want to take notes. And we will send a replay link following today's webinar. So again, you could hear all this great information, or if you have to bow out early, you'll be able to access that information. I am now very happy to introduce a tremendous woman who I admire and friend, Brandi Britton. Brandi is the district president for OfficeTeam, the nation's leading staffing service specializing in the temporary placement of highly skilled administrative and office support professionals. In her role, Brandi oversees operations for the company's offices throughout Los Angeles and Ventura County. Brandi is a frequent speaker on employment issues and has been interviewed by the media on career, job search, workplace, hiring, and management topics. Brandi also presented at our annual conference for administrative excellence, and I think that was 2 years ago that Brandi was with us, and we loved her so much, we are bringing her back for this year's 25th annual conference for administrative excellence in October in Las Vegas. Woohoo, Brandi, I get to see you again. All right, well, without any more delay, we're going to start. First of all, Brandi, welcome. We are so happy you're here joining us today. And we're going to dive right in. So I know you and I have looked at some of these questions and what you want to discuss today. So the first question I have for you is, why is communicating with confidence so important for administrative professionals?
Well, Joan, administrative professionals deal with a variety of individuals. So they could be dealing with executives from other companies. They could be dealing with their coworkers or many of the employees within their company. So due to the wide range of people that they work with, it's very important that they convey themselves with confidence. It also helps them gain respect in the workplace and be seen as a leader and a very important part of the team.
Very good. So, and I know we've delved into, we're going to dive a little deep too, and going into this whole art of persuasion. and negotiation. And before I turn it, over to you for that, this has always been very interesting for me, in training assistants for 28 years. And in some of my courses, I have persuasion skills and negotiation and so forth. And what I have always found interesting and kind of say or noticed in administrative professionals, they really don't see themselves as salespeople. And for my perspective, and how I know this is because they'll say, well, I asked my executive if I could go to this conference and they said no, so that's it. Or I asked for support for association dues and I was told no, so that's it. Versus saying this is really important and I need to really work at persuasion. So I think this is a really important piece that I'd like you to spend time on, this whole piece of the persuasion and negotiation and why it's important.
Absolutely. So persuasion and negotiation for an administrative assistant is, to your point, very important. To give you a couple of examples on when you might see as an administrative assistant that the office needs a new printer, but the executive or the manager knows that cost and controlling expenses is very important. But let's say, for example, you constantly see that the repairman is coming, it's $500 every single time. And if you just bought a new printer, the overall cost would be less than bringing in a repairman. So how you convey that to your manager, to your executive is really key. Just asking for a new printer, you might get shot out of the water. But when you walk them through, what are the benefits? What is the long-term outcome? You might definitely get your way, and that could be better for the company and the department on the front end. So the art of articulating it is really what is most important. So it's bringing it up, discussing the why behind it, and then being comfortable to bring that up again. Just because you didn't get it the first time doesn't mean that it's something that you shouldn't bring up again in a month or two. It also helps your relationships with your managers when they see that something that you've suggested is a success. You're going to be taken more seriously. And then down the road, when it comes time to salary increases or title changes, things like that, you're going to be more highly thought of.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said, in terms of not giving up. The persistence is very important. So I think back when I was an assistant for 20 years, working in different companies. And if I really felt very strong, I felt strongly about something in terms of the benefit to the organization or my executive or my department, I didn't give up. And that's key to me, as you said, because first of all, I think about the frame of mind, right, that executive might be in at that moment, correct? So can you expand on that piece of it?
Exactly. So when a lot of time managers, their responsibility is to control cost or expense. Oftentimes you're raised to say no to everything. So if you hit the manager on the wrong day, they might not even hear you or hear the argument that you have to say. So the biggest difference between a good administrative assistant and a great one is one that identifies the right time to bring it up. And then if you really feel passionate about it, don't give up on it. What you have to say is really important. And administrative assistants help companies run more efficiently, much more organized. And if you see an opportunity, even if you're told no once, double back, triple back. You never know when the time is right, but really try to be thoughtful when you approach some of those subjects.
So that, I think, leads into some of these other questions that we wanted to discuss were some of the work situations, again, where they can use persuasion. So I know you identified one as, let's say, the copier example and saving costs there. Can you give assistants some other ideas? Because I personally feel like we could use persuasion skills every day. There's so many situations, but maybe help the assistants that are viewing us today with some other ideas of where they might use their persuasion skills?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you another example. When it comes to right now, the job market is very competitive for good employees. So companies are having to do activities that maybe they didn't do before, create activities for employees to feel connected to the organization. So an administrative assistant can really provide value by, number one, suggesting activities that would allow the company to provide an event or do an event. Then number two, that event is going to cost money. So as an administrative assistant, one of the highest value activities is to negotiate event. Let's say it's a venue space. Get the venue space from $1,000 to $500. Or let's think about the food. Maybe the food has a certain cost.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, we lost you for a minute. You're kind of frozen, but I will talk and hope that you come back on in a minute. So as you're ready, keep talking.
And sharing with them the why behind it.
Sorry, we lost you for a second. So you were saying negotiating in terms of the venue and different things like that. And that's another great piece, because I feel that, assistants, sometimes you don't feel you can negotiate. And again, it's a skill that was never taught. It's not taught to assistants. Or sometimes you always think of salespeople or your purchasing department in your company who does the negotiating, correct? But I think that's another area where an assistant could show value.
It shows huge value, and we call it ROI, so return on investment. And when you, at the end of the year or during your review, can point out how much money you saved the company, that is a huge value add, and is really helps in the time when it comes time to negotiating either a new position salary or your raise, and really adds value for the company.
I'm just thinking, I'm sure that's a question that's going to come up at the end of this webinar because of the business and industry you're in. I imagine we're going to get some questions about assistant salaries and raises, but we'll see where we go with that, okay? How can you come off as being more persuasive and really getting that buy-in? And I know you're going to especially talk about at our conference, really getting into the body language and such.
Absolutely. Well, so the best way to be persuasive is to be likable and be genuine. Wow. So a lot of people don't necessarily realize that the more genuine you are, the more likable you are. And so don't be afraid to be yourself around your manager. You certainly want to maintain a professional and poised demeanor. But when people get to know who you are, then they like you. So that's one. Another item would be knowing your audience and your timing. So I'll give you an example of this. At times, I'll run into some of the administrative team in the hallway, and they'll ask me for something. And it's not that I mind providing that or saying yes to that, but usually the timing of that, I'm headed somewhere. I'm headed out of the office, or I'm headed to a meeting. It's not the best time. And so really knowing your audience and picking the best time helps you become more persuasive. You also want to ask good questions. So prepare in advance. What do you want to convey? And what questions do you want to ask? And then your body language is key. Coming across, and we'll talk about this at the conference, but that posture is really is an important component.
So I'd like to delve and expand on the asking good questions, because I'm thinking, okay, we have all these wonderful assistants out there, and we're saying ask good questions. So how would we know if a question's good or not? How do I know my question is good and going to get the results or answers I want?
Yeah, so it's always a great idea to bounce that off of your coworker. Even talk to your spouse or your friend at home to get an idea. And my favorite way to ask a question or to get an answer that I want is to say, if I could show you a way to save money on a copier, would you be interested in hearing that solution? And most people are going to say yes. And then that allows me to dig into it a little bit more and make my case.
That's a good way of posing that. I like that. I don't know if you remember or ever heard of, but years and years ago, there was a book going around corporate America called QBQ, and it was the question before the question. And I guess, the premise of that book, did you ever hear about it, was often we don't get the answers we want because we haven't asked the right question. And I think that's a critical little nugget that you just shared, because I'll talk about that kind of same thing. Instead of asking something that only gives a yes or a no, present your question in a different way so that I actually have to speak to you, or the preference sometimes, would you prefer I go to the world-class assistant course in Chicago or Atlanta versus can I go to world-class assistant? Those are little examples, but they make a point, correct?
Yes. That's such a great example to say, can I, or like, here's two choices. And even expanding on that a little bit further would be to articulate what you're going to gain from that. So if I go to this event or this conference, here's what I plan to take away from that. And here's what I think I'll be able to implement in the office or in the department after I return from the event. I'd love to sit down with you for a few minutes afterwards and share with you what knowledge I gained and what I see that we can do as a team or as a department going forward. Because that's a piece that administrative professionals miss sometimes as well. It's great, I got to go to the event and it's paid for, but articulating what did you get from that event and how are you going to implement that and use that in the workplace. Your manager doesn't always know after you implement it, but being able to share that with them really makes it easier the next time you want to go on why you should get to go and why the company should cover that for you.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And let's see, I've got our little list here, so I want to make sure we cover everything. I'd like to stay on that a little bit longer just before we go to some of the other points we were going to talk about, because it is such a critical piece, because we all know, especially us here at Office Dynamics, being in the training industry for 28 years, it's hard for a lot of assistants to get support for their training or education, whatever that learning might be. And again, this is where I see this big gap of assistants not being assertive enough and not, that goes back to that confidence piece you're talking about, right? Because we have to really believe in our heart it's the right thing and it's going to be a good thing. How do those people who maybe aren't as outgoing or as maybe project, like for me, some people project through their tone and their voice more. Other people we know are timid or shy, or they have a softer voice. What recommendations do you have for those people who it's just not natural for them to come out and have that confidence?
Yes, well, definitely sometimes administrative assistants tend to be quieter, or they don't always want to verbalize what their request is. So the first piece of advice that I would give is if you ask and you're told no, then the first response would be, what kinds of things can I do this year to make myself eligible to go next year? if I save the company $4,000 in hotel expenses or in service repairs, would I then be eligible to apply that savings to an event like this for my professional development? So that's one way to take a no and turn it into a way to get to a yes. If you are a little bit shyer, what my recommendation would be is to request a meeting with your manager via email and just say, I'd like to speak with you for about 5 to 10 minutes, share with you some of the things that I've accomplished, and then share with you something that I would like to do. Because usually once you start talking about the things that you've gotten done, that helps you feel more confident. You're like, hey, I've done this and I've done that. And then that should help you asking the question. And then if you're not comfortable or the manager doesn't have that kind of time, then it's always okay to craft your request via email. Just be very thoughtful and make sure you convey the point in a concise manner. Most managers and executives do not want to read a very long email. So that's where you've got to be really tight and make sure you convey everything in a concise manner.
Very good. The power poses. I've heard of power poses. I've seen power poses. Do they really work? And can you give our viewers, our attendees, what do those poses look like? What are they?
Well, we're going to talk about these at the conference and actually demonstrate them coming up. But there's a great TED Talk by Amy Cuddy. If you haven't seen it, I would look at that on TED. But a lot of power poses is about how you stand or how you sit and about posture. So we often, because of our computers, because of our phones, we're always hunched over. You really have to be conscientious about your posture. And so we'll do a lot more of some examples at the conference coming up. But what I can convey right now is your posture. Are your shoulders back? Are you making eye contact? Those would be the top two things that I could convey right now without giving some examples.
Giving away our secrets, yes, because actually this year you are doing one of our 4 labs, and this is very different. These are different than concurrent sessions. So the labs that we are offering this year for the first time in the industry ever are where they're going to come in and roll up their sleeves and get in the nitty gritty so that they really walk out feeling they know that skill or whatever it is you're talking about. And I believe you're going to have them actually do some of those power poses, correct? It'll be fun.
Absolutely.
You know that. It'll be great fun. Well, it's interesting because about a month ago I was at the ATD huge international conference. So that's the Association for Training and Development. And there was a session there specifically for women hosted by a female. And it was about women, power and girl power. And it was really funny because she talked, right away, one of the things she mentioned was the power pose for women. And she had us get up and actually do that. And you do feel different. I know for me, one thing I like to focus on with women and assistants, but a lot of females especially, is when we stand to make sure we have our feet we're kind of evenly balanced, about 8 inches apart. I think women per se, we have a tendency to throw a hip out to the left or the right. That's not very powerful, is it? If you go in and you're talking to someone and you're kind of, crossing your arms, and so you'll be building on that more. I'm excited about this question. So improvisational skills, how does that tie in and really help you in communicating more effectively?
Well, that's where being genuine comes back into play. So it is about rolling with the punches, being fun, having a sense of humor, and really taking what you're hearing and then building on that. So that can definitely be a skill that people have to work on. But really, it's about being aware in the moment, listening to what your audience is telling you, and rolling with the punches and being fun about it. Everyone needs a little humor in their life, and so your ability to incorporate that can make you even more likable.
Have you ever taken improv classes?
Well, I live in Los Angeles, so I've seen a lot of improv, but I have not taken any classes.
Well, I mean, it's just interesting because I have noticed more and more people are actually taking improv classes for that very reason, to learn how to be able to carry that out into the workplace, which is interesting, right? Because isn't improv kind of spontaneous and on the moment, but yet I guess there's some skill to it. And so I like that idea, what you said as far as being able to communicate more effectively. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that when an assistant is communicating with another individual, let's say his or her executive, to really be listening and paying attention so you can be spontaneous. Because I think a lot of times we're just on autopilot.
Yes. So a lot of times people are thinking about what they want to say next rather than listening to what the person is actually saying. So it is great for you to really be conscientious about listening to your audience, being engaged with them. There's so many popular speakers out there from former presidents. And you know, one of the things you always say about, or you always hear about them, is they made me feel like I'm the only person in the room with them. And you can do that as an individual. And a lot of that just has to do with your ability to listen to them, respond to what they actually said, make great eye contact, and go from there. It can be very, very powerful. And it is something that doesn't always come natural to everyone, but it is something that can be worked on for sure. And you can practice at home. You can practice at the grocery store, and then incorporate it at work if you'd like. But it just makes you more genuine in the long run. Great.
The next thing we're going to talk about are some pointers for public speaking. And I just want to position it in a way that I position it when I am all teaching assistants presentation skills. And so the way I present it, because they might be thinking, well, I'm not going to speak it in front of a big audience or on a platform. But my opening is always, you're on stage every single day, and the office is your stage, and wherever you go that day, you are on stage. Therefore, if you develop the skills of public speakers or professionals develop, you will use those and transfer them. So what pointers do you have in respect to that?
Absolutely. So I love your point about if you always feel like you're on stage, then it will become much more natural for you. That's a great piece of advice. So a couple of things for public speaking. Number one is practice. So you do not want to wait till the morning of or the night before you practice what you're going to talk about. Number two, the better you can know your material inside and out, the better. So if you're not as familiar as you'd like to be, get familiar. Talk to different people who are subject matter experts, because that will help you feel more confident and you'll convey it much, much better. If you can, use visual aids or use examples. That can help bring the audience's eye off of you to something else for a moment. It also makes it much more entertaining for your audience. You want to slow down your tone and your voice. So, and as I get excited about this subject, so I'm talking fast and not following advice. But you want to slow down as much as possible when you're speaking in public, and use pauses effectively. Of course, we can all work on this, but the ums and the ahs, that is something that takes time, and we're human beings. We definitely use them, but try to minimize that. And then, as I mentioned with the improv, using humor. So if you can get the audience laughing, joking, that always makes it more fun. Asking the audience questions, getting their engagement, that's a really big thing for me. I need to feel from my audience that they are engaged and contributing. So asking questions can be a lot of fun. And then being respectful of the time that is allotted. You certainly want to stay within the time frame that's been given to you. If there isn't a time frame given to you, be aware of your audience and watch their posture and their engagement. If you start to see that you're losing people, that means you need to wrap it up.
So everything you just ran through, I absolutely love, and I could clearly see every step you just gave us apply to your workplace. So some thoughts, when you talked about the ums and the ahs, if we do a lot of that and we're communicating just day to day in our workplace, we are not coming across as being confident or knowing our material or what we want to talk about. When you talked about the script, knowing your script, I can definitely see that. If I'm going to go in and talk to my executive, maybe I want to request that he give me more one-on-one time. I need to script it. I need to rehearse it. I need to practice it, correct? Or maybe an assistant has to approach a difficult coworker or someone who isn't turning their project in on time or their work. Every single piece you just mentioned can absolutely be applied every single day in our workplace. And I love that. So thank you very much. And then the last question we had, how can workers practice and improve their communication skills?
So a variety of ways. Like you said, be on the spot, be ready to communicate, always think about yourself on stage. So that would be number one. Number two is volunteer to speak up in meetings when somebody might add like any other questions, any other comments. Don't be afraid to be the one that adds something in, because that continues to make you more comfortable with adding information and speaking in that kind of setting. There are great classes out there. There's organizations like Toastmasters that can be great for helping you speak in front of a room full of strangers. So there are different things that you can do, but the more you can volunteer to speak up, the better it is for you in the long run. But there's also courses that you can take out there as well.
Yeah, there is a lot of information. And I was just thinking about, I'm going to step away for 1 second, believe it or not, and hope I have something to show you, but I don't have it nearby. There is an excellent book that I picked up in an airport traveling back from Orlando. It's outstanding. It's called Successful Women Speak Differently. And I actually got a copy for myself. I've got one for Malia. Malia, in fact, if you have your book at your workstation, when you come on, would you show it to everyone and give them all that information? It is one of the most fabulous books I have read, directed towards females, which 97% of assistants are female. And we especially have to work on being more confident and presenting ourselves more confidently in the workplace. So it's an awesome read. And again, Malia, if you have that near your desk, I don't have my copy right here. I think it's at my house. I would love for you to provide that for everyone. So I believe we have a lot of questions that I've been watching come in. And I would like to end a little bit earlier because I would love for us, and especially you, to be able to address our attendees' questions. So Malia, we're going to start a little earlier, and let's go to the questions because we can always circle back at the end, Brandi and I, on some other things.
Hi. Okay, so I do have my book. Let me I'm going to go big screen here for a second so that they can see it, if that's okay. There we go. It's a little backwards, but Brandi Britton. Okay. And then we'll go back to Brandi. And Brandi, I have some questions for you. Let's see. Jean is asking or stating, she's been an assistant for 30 years and she wants to go to the Vegas conference. She thinks her boss will say, well, don't you know everything after 30 years? And she would like some tips on convincing him its importance to her and ultimately what the importance is for him as well.
Great. So that is definitely a common objection, whether like, don't you know everything already? So my recommendation would be to go through the event and look at what different topics there are going to be and pay most attention to the ones that you're not familiar with right now that'll apply to your business, to the business that you happen to work in. And then I would make the case to the manager about, okay, these are some of the things that I've done for the company over the last year. And I want to share that with you. But here are the things that I believe I'm going to learn. And here's how I think I'll be able to implement that in our department or at our company after I go to this conference. Joan, anything that you would add as well?
Yeah, yes, because I hear that one, you know, I've heard that often. And my take on it additionally is when an executive says, well, you're already a star, why go to training? Because you know what, if you're a star, you always learn. You're always learning. It never ends. You're always on the path. Things change every single day. And one person cannot know possibly everything that is going on. So my take would be, yes, I am very experienced. I have learned and dedicated myself all these years, and I'm not done yet. As long as I'm in the workplace, as long as I step in and I wake up and come out here today, I have to know what's going on. I have to broaden my horizons so I can help us to stay, you know, competitive and make sure we're being very productive in using the best processes. And I think the other part, Brandi, which you could attest to as well, the value you get when you go to an event and you get to network with all these other people, right? And sharing best practices is another way we pick up great tips by that face-to-face networking with others. All right, Malia, go ahead. Next one.
Great.
Okay, Ivory, how do you say no to your manager with respect and tactfulness when asked to carry out a task, that's not under your umbrella?
Well, I don't always agree that you should say no. If it's something that you are capable of doing and would make you shine even further, then why not complete it? I think that the best administrative assistants are made to get things done, and that really shows their value. If it's truly something that you don't know how to do, then that may be an opportunity for you to learn and go and reach out to someone else and see if they know how to do it and take on that new skill. So that would be my take on it. How about you, Joan?
I loved your answer. Thank you. I agree because I feel, again, you should test new things, try new things, be willing. And the only advice I've ever given over the years is if you truly can put numbers to your workload and it is not humanly possible to fit in and whatever, and you've done your due diligence, then you have to put together your case as to why you don't think you should do something. But overall, I fully agree with Brandi and not saying no, being viewed as that person. Yes, give it to me. I want to try it. I want to learn something new. I want to do something new. Really makes you stand out. So great advice, Brandi. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, Rhonda is stating, my boss wants me to become Series 7 licensed, but wants me to pay for the books and study sessions. This is an expense that I cannot afford. I feel he should be paying for this. How do I broach this subject with him?
That's a tough one. So if your boss is requiring you to take the 7 series, then I think I would ask why the company isn't willing to pay for it. And I would be honest and say, unfortunately, this is not something in my budget for the year. And I really want to learn, and I'd like to be a part of this. But in order for me to do that, I'm going to need for the company to pay for it. The tough one, they need to be prepared that you might have to look for a different job opportunity because that could be an expensive test, and you want the company to be as invested in you as you are in them.
Okay.
Joan, anything that you would add on there?
No, thank you. I'm good.
Okay. Larisha, what if you are likable? She's saying that she is likable, genuine, meek, and nice, but people tend to walk all over her. Maybe she's too nice.
Malia, I didn't catch the last part of that.
Oh,
so can you repeat that question?
She's saying that she is likable, she's genuine, she's meek and nice, but people tend to walk all over her. So she's looking for suggestions like maybe she's too nice, or how does she assert herself on that?
Yeah, well, it depends on what is being walked on. So if that means that other people are giving you their work, there is a fine line between that's great because then you're the one who gets the knowledge and you're the one that is seen getting things done. But if it's being abused, then that isn't necessarily a good thing. So if that's something where you've got to practice, and if people are giving you work that's theirs that they should be completing, then maybe once a week you decline that work and then build up that confidence to object to it. It depends on the scenario where you feel like you're being walked on, but it takes practice. So try one time per week behaving in a different manner than you normally are, and then the next week try it twice. But being aware of it is the first step in gaining that confidence so that hopefully you don't feel that way anymore.
Okay. Thank you. Jamia is asking what the power poses are.
Can't give them all away.
Yes.
We can't. Maybe one.
Exactly. You're going to see them at the conference.
Yeah.
So the main ones to remember is how you stand, standing with your shoulders back, your feet about shoulder width apart, and with your arms down on the sides. That would be the best way to describe the main power pose. Also, we do a lot of sitting. So how you sit in your chair is key as well. And the biggest piece of advice that I can give you there is sitting up straight. Don't lean. I like to lean on my chair a lot, and that isn't necessarily a position that conveys confidence. So as much as possible, back straight, leaning back. And then in any cases, if you've got your arms on the table, that can be good as well.
Okay. That's great. And if they want to know more, they can come to the conference, right?
Yeah, I got it.
Jody wants to know also, kind of along the same lines, how do you think wardrobe affects your presentation in the workday? She has a casual office, and she believes that a lot of people take it a little too far.
Oh, this is one of my favorite subjects. I could talk for probably an hour on this topic. So a couple of things to remember. The old saying of dress in the position that you want to be in. It still stands strong. Dress codes today are definitely more casual than they were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But that doesn't mean that you need to be the one that pushes the envelope of the dress code. So I've always been a big fan of a nice skirt, a button-up blouse, a sweater is always good. Couple things to remember. You don't want to show too much skin. You do not want to, if you question the outfit that you're wearing, if you have to think twice about it, it's probably one that you shouldn't wear. Has been very good advice over the long run. I know a lot of businesses allow jeans these days. That's certainly acceptable, but you want to have polished jeans and a nice shirt or a blazer with that, because the way you dress is how seriously people take you. And I know it can be difficult in casual environments on how casual to take it, but at the end of the day, it's a reflection of you. So convey the image that you want to convey.
Wonderful.
I want to jump in on this one because we could probably spend hours on this topic. Again, I agree 100%. And I always, with what Brandi is saying. And the other thing I wanted to also point out, sometimes what I tell assistants to do is to look to the senior level females in your organization. How are they dressing? Because I bet 90% or more are wearing, like Brandi said, if they are wearing jeans, they're sharp jeans, they're nicely pressed, they've got on high heels with it, they've got on a shirt or a blouse or a scarf. It's the jewelry they add to it. So, there's jeans and there's jeans. So that's the advice I give too. If you're in a bigger organization, look to your top senior females and watch how they are dressing, because most likely they've got it down on that dress. And the other item too, Brandi, that I always talk about, and I think is critically important for assistants, is we're still fighting a battle to be taken seriously. So I'll hear assistants say, well, our managers dress this way. Why should I care? They're coming in looking messy and this and that. And I said, they're not fighting the same battle. Managers have always been taken seriously. But as assistants, we are still fighting to be seen as a real career, a real profession. And also as women, we're still fighting that battle. We have to admit it and not close our eyes to it. So for us, no, it's not over. and you've got to think about it. Goes back to that, you're on stage every day, right, Brandi? It's all part of it. And I know when I was a secretary, I got referred to other jobs or positions or interviewing for CEOs to work with them because of what people saw in me as I walked around my workplace, how I was dressed, how I acted. And unbeknownst to me, they then recommended me. Again, it goes back to you're on stage every single day, and all the things Brandi's been discussing are critically important. That's my 2 cents.
All great points. So true. That mirroring your image to senior female executives in the office is a great piece of advice, because to your point, they figured it out. They got it.
Okay, wonderful. Debbie wants to know how to tell her sales force no and have it stick. The salespeople have a way of getting you to say yes all the time for last minute requests.
Supporting a sales team, probably one of the most challenging positions out there. They always need everything, and they needed it yesterday and forgot to tell you about it, right? So I think a couple of things. It is about, I don't know that it's necessarily about saying no, but it is about managing your day. So my recommendation is, if you've got a team of people that you support that are always asking you for things last minute, one, you want to try to figure out what are those last minute things that they often ask you about, and is there a way for you to prepare in advance for those types of requests? So checking in with them in the morning. Is there any type of unexpected activity that you're going to need me to do today as I plan? So proactively getting in front of them. 2, if it's the same request over and over, then you might sit down with them and just ask, like, okay, I've noticed that every Tuesday and Wednesday you need this PowerPoint presentation put together. I'd like to be a little bit more proactive and get that done for you. And so I can do better quality of work and not necessarily be rushed. So can we maybe get together at the end of every week and talk about what you have on your schedule coming up next week so that I can be prepared in advance? So it's not necessarily about saying no, but it's about being organized and helping them get organized to help you do your job more efficiently. Joan, what would you add from an advice on that standpoint?
I agree. I mean, I think with everything you said, I like the idea of being proactive. I also feel that's where if you would have some daily huddles, talk to people early in the morning, what's on the agenda for today. Don't wait till they come to you. You could go to them and initiate conversation and say, I'm trying to prioritize my day. I want to make sure I take care of what you need today. So maybe trying to get them to talk about their hot items and what might be requested.
Okay.
Great.
Dana, kind of along the same lines, she puts together a committee packet each month, and she has a difficult time getting people to give her their agenda items in a timely manner. Her boss is new, and she would like to know if there's a way that she can ask for his help in motivating the staff.
Great question. So a couple of things that I've noticed, particularly when trying to compile information from a large group of people, is we tend to send a lot of emails requesting that information, and those can be effective, but one of the most powerful things to me is a telephone call. So what I recommend you do is you send out the email asking for certain information, give a deadline, obviously you probably already know this, but give them an earlier deadline than you have on your own, and then send out that reminder again. If you still don't get what you need, then don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call that manager directly to say, hey, I want to find out what you need on the agenda. Because one, that helps you get a relationship with that person. And a lot of times it's easier for that manager to knock it out right then and there on the phone versus digging through all of their emails that they've received about it, pulling that up, sending a reply. You could be making it easier for that individual. Now, since you have a new manager, what you might do is sit down with them, walk them through what the schedule is. You've got, here's what your timeline is, and then share with them where you have challenges with getting information from different people. Tell them your solution and how you're going to improve that, but ask for help as well. So say, if this doesn't work, I really like your help in getting the information that we can get this packet put together.
I really like that idea of picking up the phone because executives and managers are inundated with emails. And even if they open it, sometimes I'll open an email and it's like, I'll go back to this later, and then it gets buried down the list. So yeah, do what other people are not doing. Pick up the phone and talk to them. I love that idea. I'm a big fan of that. Thank you. Malia, I think we have time for another question, and then I need to make some wrap-up comments that are important. So let's take the next one for Brandi.
Okay. Brandi, Jean has a boss who has a tendency to make comments that embarrass people. Silly comments like, I can't believe you didn't order the good chocolate to go with the good wine at large group dinners and conferences. So how would you address this with him without getting emotional or getting angry and sending him off?
Yeah, that's a tough one, certainly. So I would, my recommendation is, especially it's easier if the comment is made to somebody else. So let's say, for example, your executive makes that comment and embarrasses the person. At a different time, maybe in your one-on-one meetings, you might say to the executive, I'm not sure if you're aware, but that really hurt Anne's feelings. What I'd like to do is, if you see areas for improvement in how we have conduct certain meetings or order certain food, and you want to share feedback to some of the other assistants, you can share that with me first, and then I can relay that information on your behalf, because it really it can hurt people's feelings. Joan, what would be your take on that one? That's a tough scenario.
I think it's a little tough to answer in terms of not knowing really all the dynamics of the relationship, because sometimes there's people you click with right away, correct? So maybe I've only worked with an executive for 2 months, but we click, and maybe you work with another one for a year and you're not clicking. So to me, you've got to really look at the dynamics of that relationship and how comfortable you feel. And also, if you've built a partnership or you're building a partnership, we should be able to give that open, honest feedback to our executives. But of course, you have to do it very carefully and think about, what you say and how you say it and how you position it, but always doing it in a fashion that you're looking out for their best and how they're viewed. So it's kind of a fuzzy answer I'm giving, but that's only because I don't know the dynamics of the relationship, because I would answer it differently depending on the dynamics of it. So let's see, do we have Brandi there with us? Yes.
Yeah, okay. She came back.
Well, first of all, don't go away. We still have a few more minutes, because I do have something important to tell you about OfficeTeam's salary guide in just a moment that I'm sure you're going to want to learn about. But I also would like to, first of all, thank Brandi so much for her time today. And she is going to be presenting at our conference with several others. If you have not taken a look, we have a downloadable brochure for you. So this is like the cover of it that you could see. But I especially wanted to emphasize some of the special things we're doing this year, which are the hands-on lab. We are doing a best practices sharing, where we're going to formally have the assistants in the grand ballroom. We're going to allow you time to share your best practices with each other, with assistants from all over the world. We're going to have a star-studded panel. Our theme this year is the Stellar Assistant. So I have enlisted some top-notch, high-achieving assistants from across the country that I've worked with to share with you their ideas on excellence and how to be stellar. So we really hope you're going to come. We're blowing it out of the water this year. I mean, we always do. But because it's our 25th, we're going to take it up even another notch, and we would love to see you, and Brandi would love to see you. So take advantage, go to OfficeDynamicsConference.com to learn more about that event, because seats are going fast. Brandi, I would love to take a moment. I have always loved the OfficeTeam salary guide, and it's not just about the salary. It is so in-depth. So can you tell everyone about that for a moment and how they might be able to access that?
Absolutely. So if you go to our website at OfficeTeam.com, we've got our salary guide there at our salary center. And what that can do is help you identify where your salary ranks in comparison to the rest of the city that you may be in, or the geography that you're in. It gives you tips and trends that are going on in the workplace right now. And overall, it's a great guide that helps you with your career as an administrative professional.
And I love how you have really mapped it out by city. Then based on, I think you even add a certain percentage for titles or industries. I mean, it's so thorough. It's the best I have ever seen. And also, to me, if you're going to go in and you need to be persuasive about a salary, you need some specifics in your hands. You need facts, and that's what the guide provides for you. So I absolutely love that resource, and I know you're going to be bringing several of those to our conference this year, too, that we're going to give out to our attendees. Are there any other resources or last-minute final words that you want to say to everyone today? I don't know if she heard me. Are you there, Brandi?
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask.
Joan, what was that?
Are there any other OfficeTeam resources you want to tell them about, or closing comments before we go?
Yeah, well, number one, thank you for having me. This is, we love Office Dynamics, such a great organization that helps empower and develop administrative professionals. So thank you for hosting this. Thank you for including us in this event. And for general workplace topics to help you negotiate that raise or help you negotiate a new job opportunity or just general advice in the workplace, you can take a look at our website, OfficeTeam.com, and there's a variety of resources there for you that help you as an administrative professional. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And we will be seeing you very soon. October will be here before we know it. Thanks to all of you who attended today. We really, really appreciate it, and just hope you have a great day. So bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.